She was not the most beautiful woman in the ancient world, but she didn't need to be. Cleopatra VII, last of the Ptolemaic pharaohs, could command armies, sway the hearts of Rome's greatest men, and change the course of history with a whisper. She seduced empires, navigated treacherous politics, and waged wars with her wit. But behind the myths and legends, who was the real Cleopatra? Was she a love-struck queen, a manipulative tyrant, or a brilliant strategist determined to save her dying kingdom? Cleopatra was born in 69 BCE into a world where the fate of nations swung on family feuds and foreign alliances. Alexandria, her home, was a city of marble columns and glittering libraries, a crossroads of Greek learning and Egyptian tradition. Her family, the Ptolemies, had ruled Egypt for nearly 3 centuries, but they were outsiders, Greek-speaking, Macedonian by blood, and notorious for palace intrigue. Incest was a tool of dynastic survival. Her parents were likely siblings, and Cleopatra herself would eventually marry both of her younger brothers. Yet, Cleopatra was no ordinary princess. While her ancestors treated Egypt as a prize, she embraced its people and its gods. She was the first Ptolemy in centuries to learn Egyptian, and she spoke at least 8 other languages. From her earliest years, she was educated in philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and statecraft. She listened to Greek philosophers debate in the palace halls, studied the stars with Egyptian priests, and learned how to command loyalty from the fiercely independent people she would one day rule. At just 18, Cleopatra ascended to the throne, sharing power, at least in name, with her 10-year-old brother, Ptolemy XIII, who was also her husband. But their union was uneasy, and soon, palace intrigue erupted into open conflict. Cleopatra was driven into exile, forced to flee Alexandria for the harsh deserts of Syria. Her brother's advisors believed they had won, but Cleopatra was not so easily defeated. From exile, she plotted her return. She knew that brute force would not win her back the throne. She needed an ally more powerful than any in Egypt, a man who could tip the scales in her favor. That man was uliusCaesar, the most powerful general in Rome, who had just arrived in Alexandria in pursuit of his own enemies. What happened next became the stuff of legend. Smuggled into Caesar's palace, Cleopatra allegedly arranged for herself to be delivered, hidden within a rolled-up carpet or sack. When it was unrolled before the Roman conqueror, out came the exiled queen, daring, poised, and utterly unafraid. Whether Caesar was won over by her beauty, her intelligence, or her audacity has fueled centuries of speculation. What is clear is that Caesar restored her to power. In the civil war that followed, Ptolemy XIII was killed. Some say he drowned in the Nile, and Cleopatra was once again queen. But her throne came at a price. To secure her dynasty, Cleopatra married her younger brother, Ptolemy XIV. But her real partner was Caesar. Their alliance was both personal and political. She gave birth to a son, Caesarion, whom she claimed as Caesar's heir. Together, they toured along the Nile, presenting themselves as living gods, Isis and Osiris reborn. But in Rome, whispers turned to outrage. Caesar was already married, and now he flaunted his relationship with a foreign queen. Rumors spread that he intended to make Cleopatra queen of Rome itself. Before any such plan could be realized, Caesar was assassinated on the Ides of March, 44 BCE. Widowed and alone, Cleopatra returned to Egypt. But the struggle for power in Rome was far from over. Caesar's former ally, Mark Antony, summoned Cleopatra to answer for her loyalties. She did not come quietly. Sailing up the river Cydnus at Tarsus, she appeared on a gilded barge, dressed as the goddess Isis, surrounded by attendants in shimmering robes and perfumed with incense. To Antony, it was as if Aphrodite herself had descended from the heavens. Cleopatra knew exactly how to capture a man's attention, and more importantly, his allegiance. What followed was not just a love affair, but a partnership that shook the world. Cleopatra and Antony became inseparable. They held feasts that lasted for days, staged mock coronations, and declared themselves gods and rulers of the East. Together, they had 3 children and shared their dreams of a new empire, one that would unite Rome and Egypt. But back in Rome, their union was seen as a dangerous threat. Octavian, Caesar's adopted son and future Augustus, seized the moment. He declared war not on Antony, but on Cleopatra, a foreign queen corrupting a Roman general. For the first time, Rome's legions marched, not against another nation, but against a woman. The final confrontation came at the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE. Cleopatra and Antony's fleet was outnumbered and outmaneuvered. Their forces were crushed and they retreated to Alexandria, surrounded by enemies and abandoned by allies. In the end, Antony fell on his own sword, dying in Cleopatra's arms. Days later, with Octavian's soldiers closing in, Cleopatra too chose death over captivity. Legend says she let a venomous asp bite her. Some say it was poison hidden in a hairpin. Others believe Octavian ordered her murder. The truth may never be known. What is certain is that Cleopatra died on August 12th, 30 BCE, at just 39 years old. With her death, Egypt became a Roman province, and 3,000 years of pharaonic rule came to an end. For centuries, Cleopatra's name has echoed through history, sometimes as a temptress, sometimes as a tragic heroine, and sometimes as a cunning strategist. Strip away the myths, and what remains is a woman who broke the rules, who defied the world's greatest empire, and who played the game of power as well as any man. Cleopatra's tomb has never been found. Her final resting place remains one of history's greatest mysteries, but her legacy endures, not just in ancient texts and shattered statues, but in every story of female ambition, resilience, and rebellion. So the next time you hear her name, remember, Cleopatra was more than a seductress. She was a survivor, a strategist, and the last true ruler of one of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known. If you found this story fascinating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss more stories that history tried to bury. What do you think? Was Cleopatra a master manipulator or a misunderstood queen? Let us know in the comments below.